I am at an event that's being introduced by the Real Talk Committee, and they have welcomed Paul Ifayomi Grant to actually premiere 7am, the documentary, which has been produced by Jason Black for the first time. It's being shown in Birmingham. And really, it's to start a discussion about Black socioeconomics and the things that we need to address. I'm very pleased that you joined me today. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much.
So before we talk about the documentary, my understanding is that you are the author of several books. You've produced a number of workshops. In fact, you act somewhat as a champion within our community when it comes to issues of promoting our cultural issues, whether that be relationships or money or what have you. So just tell us a little bit about you and your latest projects and what inspired you to really lead the charge on this.
The long story, I suppose, is that I read a book in 1995 which inspired me, which was Disruption of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. And that really, I suppose it's what you might call a cultural epiphany. So it's an opening of my eyes to things that I had an inkling of but didn't really have full information on. So that book made me really think about I needed to do something.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was, but I knew I needed to do something. So I then did an African history course, which kind of was about embedding some concrete knowledge and actually understanding of where we've come from and where we need to go. And then I suppose I started to just volunteer and do various activities in the community. One of the first things I did, well, there were two bits. One was I joined a group or helped found a group called Nubian Link in Nottingham, which focused on education around young people. We ran summer schools for about 15 years for young people. We did awards around education. So we did an Africans in Science award, which was to encourage Black children to study science and technology, which is still very much needed. And then in 1996, I sort of conceived and co-founded a company. It was a company now. It was a group then called the African Business Development Fund, ABDF, which was about addressing an issue I see as being really fundamental, which is about economic development. So it took the idea of a partner, which I used to see my mum collecting the partner money, and tried to change it from using that concept as a tool of consumption, because obviously people sometimes collect their partner money, save up and then spend it on something which they needed. But say, okay, could we use that concept but keep the money together and use it to invest in business?
Right.
So that was the concept behind it, because one of the things I realised that we lack is capital. We lack pools of capital that people can use to invest and then to create businesses. Because we've got lots of people with fantastic ideas, but unfortunately a lot of them are broke. And they also don't have access, which is not a problem if you've got access to capital. If you can go to the bank or a friend or somebody who has capital and find you've got a good idea, somebody who's got money, you put the two together, then you can create businesses. But we really lack that often. So that was the idea behind the organisation, because I always used to hear when I went to various events and lectures, if only Black people put their money together, and then people say, but we can't trust each other. And I never believed that. And yeah, we've been going for 19 years and the money's still there and no one's stolen it, and we're still moving forward. So,
which proves it can work.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's other people doing that in other parts of the country, and also I'm a part of a group in the United States as well called Us Lifting Us, and I'm a member of that, which does the same sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
So that was one of the key things I wanted to do.
Absolutely. Well, this documentary comes from the United States, doesn't it?
Does, yeah.
Yeah, 7am. So tell us a little bit about 7am and why it's even called that.
Well, if within the film it sort of says, it talks about the problems. It says, what are the things you're going to do after you wake up at 7am?
Right.
So it's really about, a lot of people wake up at 7 o'clock, maybe 6:45, 7:15, but it's a kind of common time to get up. And it's really about the challenges that face us once we get out of bed. So the film is really looking at the, what I call the economic history of Africans in the United States.
Right.
People may say, well, we're not in the United States. But actually, if you look at the problems afflicting us, they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
They talk about the lack of business ownership. They talk about the gap in disparity in terms of income. Even more stark, the gap and disparity in terms of wealth, which the film is often about. Then you look at things like the criminal justice system. We know all about that in terms of overrepresentation, unemployment. So the problems are actually very, very similar. And in fact, to some degrees, it may be harder here because we're a much smaller percentage of the population. In the United States, they're sort of 13% of the population, and they have cities which are the majority Black cities. We don't have that here. So actually, the challenge may even be harder for us here. So there's things which we can actually learn, because unfortunately, a lot of people in this country think that African Americans have made it because they've got a Black president. Yeah, but then they actually realised things have actually got much worse for black people since 2008. We're actually the biggest losers economically during the recession, lost most wealth of any group in the United States proportionately, not absolutely proportionately. And I think probably Warren Buffett and Bill Gates have got more wealth than all the African Americans put together. All 43 million put together. Those two men have got more wealth than all of them.
And when you put it like that, it really highlights how stark that contrast is. That's huge. You know, two men cover basically all of our community in a country. That's crazy, economically, of course.
Yeah.